In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to do these elongated stitches for the Ranunculus pattern. So it occurs in 4 separate rows in the pattern, 2 early on in the yoke and then 2 later in the yoke. I just did one here and then I'm just about to do the last one here. This one's in row 30, which is exactly the same as the first one in row 2. So in the pattern, I've already done a few here, just continuing on, so it's a repeat. You need to, in the repeat, you knit one, you insert the right needle between the 2nd and the 3rd stitch on the left needle. Make sure you don't go too far down. You don't want to go down where you're actually into a stitch itself. You just want to go above the work but between the 2nd and 3rd stitch. So you insert the needle between the 2nd and 3rd, wrap around and pull through, and pull out a little bit to create an elongated stitch. Then you want to put your thumb on there to make sure that you don't collapse that stitch into a small stitch like that as you go to knit the next stitch. So you actually want to keep that out a little bit. I use my left thumb and forefinger to hold on to it so that I insert the needle, wrap around and pull through, wrap around and pull through and knit the next 2 stitches. So this one still is elongated and it hasn't been collapsed. And then you knit 1. So effectively you're knitting 3. And then you repeat that again. So it's insert the needle between the 2nd and the 3rd stitch on the left hand needle, wrap around and pull through, keep that elongated, and then knit the next 2 stitches on the needles. After you've done the first one, you can let it go a little bit and you can see that it's elongated, and then you knit the next one. And you repeat that all the way around. So between the 2nd and the 3rd, right? Make sure you don't go too far down. Wrap around and pull through. Pinch that to keep it the size that you want. Wrap around, knit the next one, the next 2, and then 1 more, and repeat again. So I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and then I'm going to come back, and so you've actually increased, you've added an extra stitch for every repeat around, and then in the next round you come back and decrease them, and it can be a little tricky when you do the decrease of knit 2 together to make sure you're knitting the correct 2 ones together. So I'll finish this round and then come back and do the knit 2 together to show you which ones you should be joining together. So I'm nearly finished knitting around. I thought I'd just show you one area where it's easy to make a mistake when you're inserting that needle in between the 2 stitches. One way is to go too far down and actually not get in between the 2. And another is to actually not go completely between the 2, but to accidentally go sort of start between the 2nd and the 3rd and end up between the 1st and the 2nd. Can you see that? So just be really careful when you insert between the 2 that you actually are completely between the 2nd and 3rd stitch. So you're between the 2nd and the 3rd from the front and from the back. Right, so wrap around, elongate, holding that spot, 1, 2, right, so it's still got its elongation, 3. All right, I'm almost there, almost. So the very last one should be between the last 2 stitches and the stitch marker. So insert, wrap around, pull through, keep that elongated, 1 and 2. Okay, so that's the end of that round. And because we increased our stitches by 1 stitch every repeat, we're going to knit 2 together and then knit 2. And the 2 you have to knit together are the first one and that elongated stitch. And it can be a little bit, you can see I'm actually trying to find it. I've got to sort of pull it out. Can you see it there? That's the elongated stitch, and I have to knit that together with the first stitch on the needles. And then it's knit 2. So I'll do that again. So I need to knit this stitch with the elongated stitch, and you might need to pull it out to be able to grab it, to knit it together with the first stitch, and then knit 2. I'll show you one more time. So you've got this batch of 4. You want to make sure that the one that you're knitting with the first stitch, you can see it'd be easier if I had sharper tips. These ones are pretty blunt tips, these Addy needles. So I'm just pulling it out. So this row will take me a while with these needles, but it's just important. And you can see how elongated that stitch is. And then knit 2. And you continue that all the way around. And you can see that this was the last elongated stitch. This one was a little different because this one was between the second and the third. This one was between the first and the second. This first one was between the second and the third stitch on the left needles. So this was why this one was the same as the last one that I just did. And this one here was between the third and the fourth stitch on the left needle. So this one's why it's the most elongated. So the first and the last are the same, and these two are a little bit different, but the principle is the same, just making sure you're inserted into the correct position, and make sure you go, if you're going in between the second and third, you're also going out between the second and third, and that you're knitting the correct 2 together when you come and reduce the stitch count. I hope you found that helpful.